témoignera lui-même tout à l'heure de son parcours, mais nous pouvons sentir qu'il est à la fois un combat fraternel et une grande aventure spirituelle. Je le remercie d'être là. Madame.
Merci, bonjour à tous et bienvenue. Au nom du maire de Paris, Bertrand Delanoë, je suis ravie de vous accueillir et de vous dire aussi toute la fierté de pouvoir accompagner le travail de votre association et également, bien entendu, le travail de Madame Vicini plantations pour son ouvrage, pour ses photos, Esclaves au paradis. Alors pourquoi j'ai tenu personnellement à aussi appuyer cette démarche? Effectivement, je suis en charge d'intégration, je suis en charge des étrangers, mais entre la République dominicaine et Haïti, c'est aussi une question d'immigration, et aussi parce qu'à Paris, il y a beaucoup de Haïtiens, je n'oublie pas, et qu'il est important aussi, à un moment donné, des différents Parisiens, d'où qu'ils viennent, qu'on puisse aussi témoigner à un moment donné de ce qui peut les préoccuper. Alors, j'avais tenu particulièrement à...
Good morning, everybody. My name is Father Christopher Hartley Sartorius. My father's English and my mother is Spanish. I'm immensely grateful to all of you who have made this event possible. It's an extremely important privilege for me to be here this morning with all of you.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Christopher Hartley Sartorius. Mon père est anglais, ma mère espagnole, et je voudrais vous remercier de tout mon cœur pour ce privilège de pouvoir être ici aujourd'hui parmi vous.
My most heartfelt gratitude to the mayor of the city of Paris, Mr. Bertrand Delanoë, and of course to Khadija Bouta, to the organization Pour que l'Esprit vive, excuse my French, Amnesty International, and the Collectif 2004 Images, and all the wonderful people who have worked so hard for so long to make this day a reality.
Je voudrais bien sûr remercier le maire de Paris, Bertrand Delanoë, et toutes les autres personnes qui ont contribué à rendre possible cette journée, Madame Boucard, Amnesty, le collectif et toutes les autres organisations impliquées dans cette réunion.
I think it's very important that we remember that slavery has a history, a very spooky history, a very dark, evil history, a history that I'm sure everyone in the human race today feels very ashamed of, but its consequences are very much alive and well, sadly, in the world in which we live. It is estimated that in the 200 years prior to the abolition of slavery, approximately 7 million slaves were taken to the Americas, North, Central, even South America, and the Caribbean. Of those 7 million slaves, 3/4 of them were taken across the ocean in unspeakable conditions for one sole purpose, 3/4 of 7 million, and that was to harvest in the sugarcane fields.
Il est très très important de toujours garder à l'esprit que l'esclavage a une histoire qui est sombre, qui est malfaisante, qui est terrible et dont nous avons tous ici honte. Mais l'esclavage continue d'une certaine façon à ses conséquences encore aujourd'hui dans le monde actuel. Pour revenir à l'histoire, je voudrais vous dire que 200 ans avant l'abolition de l'esclavage, il y a eu 7 millions d'esclaves transportés vers les Amériques, Amérique du Nord, Amérique centrale, Amérique du Sud d'une certaine manière et les Caraïbes. De ces 7 millions d'esclaves, 3/4 d'entre eux ont été transportés dans des conditions absolument abominables et dans le seul but de récolter la canne à sucre.
It is fascinating to read history and to discover that sugar, in a sense, has shaped or contributed to shape the world as we know it today. Let me give you an event of history which is little known. If you recall, in the middle of the 18th century, there was a war in Canada between the English and the French. James Wolfe defeated the French army. And the British Empire took over also the very small and very lucrative French islands of the Caribbean, such as Guadeloupe, Martinique, etc. It reached the time in which the English and the French wanted to sign a peace treaty. And for that to be possible, England had to give back to France something. For Canada, which was quite large, or those very tiny little islands in the Caribbean.
Les enseignements de l'histoire sont tout à fait passionnants et d'une certaine façon, on peut se rendre compte que c'est le sucre qui a eu une importance capitale dans ce qu'est notre monde actuel. Je voudrais vous raconter quelque chose assez mal connu qui a eu lieu à la moitié du XVIIIe siècle lorsqu'il y avait une guerre entre les Anglais et les Français. James Wolfe, donc un général, je suppose, a battu les Français et l'Empire britannique, qui à l'époque n'était pas tellement grand, a pu hériter des îles très lucratives de la Caraïbe, c'est-à-dire Guadeloupe, Martinique, etc. Mais à un moment donné, après la guerre, les Anglais et les Français voulaient signer un traité de paix. Et à ce moment-là, l'Angleterre devait rendre quelque chose aux Français. Donc se poser la question de savoir est-ce qu'on leur donne le Canada, mais après tout c'est très très grand, ou est-ce qu'on leur donne ces îles minuscules de la Caraïbe.
The sugar lobby in the British Empire was composed at that time of the richest men in the world. If you would visit today the British Parliament, you would see statues such as these as the most important sugar barons of the world at that time.
Le lobby sucrier était quelque chose d'extrêmement puissant dans cet empire britannique et les sucriers étaient les hommes parmi les plus riches de l'Angleterre. D'ailleurs, si vous allez au Parlement anglais, vous vous voyez des statues comme on voit ici, mais il s'agit des barons du sucre qui figurent sur des statues au Parlement encore aujourd'hui.
And they were successful. They were so successful that England gave back to France those little islands of the Caribbean and retained the possession of Canada as one of its colonies. Why was this so important? Very simple. The sugar barons didn't want the competition of French sugar coming from those islands into England. So, and there's a very famous quote from Voltaire that says, "The stupid English traded sugar for snow."
Les Anglais ont vraiment réussi d'une façon magistrale et ont gardé le Canada en tant que colonie de la couronne et pour la bonne raison que les barons du sucre ne voulaient pas qu'il y ait une concurrence entre le sucre français venant des îles de la Caraïbe et de leurs propres possessions. Voltaire a d'ailleurs dit quelque chose dans le genre, ces Anglais idiots ont marchandé le sucre contre la neige.
Because in the 18th century, the only thing that Canada exported to England was the fur of its animals and the timber of its woods.
Au XVIIIe siècle, les seules exportations du Canada étaient la fourrure et le bois.
And now, allow me to take a leap of 200 years and tell you very simply that I'm just an ordinary parish priest in the Catholic Church going about his pastoral work. That's all.
Je voudrais maintenant sauter 200 ans et vous dire tout simplement que je suis un petit curé d'une paroisse et que je fais mon travail de curé catholique dans ma paroisse sans plus.
I had the privilege of working for almost 10 years in the Dominican Republic, in the eastern part of the country, in the province of San Pedro de Macorís, just to the east of the capital, Santo Domingo, and my parish was made up of approximately 600 square kilometers of sugarcane fields. These sugarcane fields contained within its borders approximately 60 bateys.
Donc ma paroisse se trouvait à l'est de la République dominicaine, à San Pedro de Macorís, un peu à l'est donc de la capitale de la République dominicaine. Ma paroisse comprenait 600 km² de champs de sucre, de canne, où il y avait 60 batallas où les coupeurs habitaient les plantations.
The word batey comes from the Taino language, some of the native dwellers of the island prior to the arrival of Christopher Columbus, and it means central square of a town or the town itself.
Alors le mot bataille, c'est un mot qui est repris de la langue des tribus qui habitaient la République dominicaine bien avant la découverte par les Espagnols, et qui veut, avant l'arrivée de Christophe Colomb, et qui veut dire la place centrale, comme la place du village, bataille.
As I said, I was a simple parish priest doing his ordinary work until one day, or gradually, he began to realize that his parishioners did not live in ordinary conditions.
Alors, tout à l'heure, j'étais un prêtre de paroisse, pas tout à fait ordinaire, et je vivais en effet comme cela, jusqu'au jour où j'ai fini par réaliser que mes paroissiens, eux, ne vivaient pas du tout une vie normale.
Living conditions much more appropriate for animals than for human beings. And this is not an insult. Allow me to illustrate with an example. An oxen in the sugar industry has an insurance policy, but human beings don't.
Alors je me suis aperçu que ces malheureux vivaient comme des animaux et pas du tout comme des êtres humains, et en disant ça, je ne veux en rien sous-estimer la valeur de ces personnes. Je vous donne un exemple. Quand je dis qu'ils vivaient pire que des animaux, les bœufs qui sont employés pour traîner des charrettes dans des plantations de sucre ont une police d'assurance, alors que les êtres humains n'ont pas l'ombre d'une assurance.
I began to discover that those endless sugarcane fields were sown year after year, generation after generation, by 8-year-old boys and girls for less than 25 cents of a dollar per furrow. And a furrow could be at least half a mile long.
Alors, j'ai découvert que ces interminables champs de sucre étaient ensemencés, et ce depuis des générations, par des gamins, des garçons, des filles d'à peine 8 ans, et qu'ils touchaient pour ce travail 25 cents d'un dollar américain par sillon. Et ces sillons peuvent être presque aussi grands que pas loin d'1 kilomètre. Donc c'est vous dire à quel point ces enfants sont exploités.
I began to realize that the only toilets and sanitary services found in Abatey were the sugarcane fields, which I thought was an insult to human dignity.
Je me suis aperçu aussi que les seules installations sanitaires, les seules toilettes dont disposaient les travailleurs sur les plantations étaient les plantations elles-mêmes, ce que je trouve totalement insultant pour ces personnes.
And I discovered that just about all the sugar cane fields belonged to two families. Please keep these two names in your memory. The Vicini family, of Italian origin, and the Fanjul family, Cuban exiles residing today in Miami, and owner of just about the entire sugar industry in Florida.
Alors j'ai découvert aussi que tous ces interminables champs de canne à sucre appartiennent en fait à deux familles. Et rappelez-vous les noms de ces deux familles. Les Vicini, qui sont des gens d'origine italienne, et l'autre famille, c'est les Fanjul, qui sont des gens d'origine cubaine, mais qui ont quitté Cuba et qui maintenant vivent en Floride, qui vivent à Miami, et qui sont aussi propriétaires là-bas de toute la canne à sucre qu'on trouve là-bas.
I discovered that at the beginning of every harvest season, the sugarcane harvest begins approximately the middle of November and ends when the rain begins for the rainy season around the middle of June. I discovered that approximately 25 to almost 30,000 men, and sometimes women and children, were brought across the Haitian-Dominican border with the complicity of the Dominican government, the military, the Navy, and the immigration authorities, in conjunction and financed by the sugar industry.
Alors je me suis aperçu aussi qu'au moment du début des travaux des champs, c'est-à-dire de la mi-novembre jusqu'à la saison des pluies, qui est à la mi-juin, environ 25 à 30 000 personnes, des hommes, mais aussi des femmes et des enfants, traversaient la frontière entre Haïti et la République dominicaine de façon parfaitement illégale, mais avec la complicité du gouvernement, des militaires, de la marine, enfin de toutes les autorités dominicaines, le tout financé par les planteurs de sucre.
I also discovered that when at 11 o'clock in the morning, these sugarcane cutters fell with exhaustion on these furrows of sugarcane. So we began to work with the workers, since the bosses didn't want to listen to us. And we started organizing the workers. We actually convened strikes. We stopped the harvest until some of these basic human rights were met. And a very vicious, aggressive campaign was initiated by the Dominican government and the Vicini families. I want to give you a very, very frightening fact, and that is that the foreign minister today of the Dominican Republic, Mr. Morales Troncoso, the foreign minister of the Dominican Republic, is the president and one of the major shareholders of Central Romana.
Comme on n'arrivait pas à discuter avec les patrons, on a décidé d'aller du côté des travailleurs. Nous avons commencé à les organiser, il y a même eu des grèves, les travailleurs ont arrêté de récolter à un moment donné et se sont mis en marche pour défendre les droits de l'homme. Mais à ce moment-là, il y a une campagne extrêmement agressive qui s'est déclenchée de la part des familles Vicini et Francoul, plus le gouvernement de la République dominicaine. Et je dois dire que l'actuel ministre des Affaires étrangères de la République dominicaine, M. Morales Troncoso, est en même temps un des principaux actionnaires de la société centrale romane.
The Dominican Republic is truly a paradise, as it is well defined in this meeting. A paradise because it's a beautiful country. A paradise because there are magnificent people living there. It's just very sad that today, in the 21st century, men, women and children live and work there in despicable conditions.
La République dominicaine est effectivement, comme on le dit souvent, un véritable paradis sur terre. C'est un pays extrêmement beau, qui a une population qui est magnifique. Tout serait très bien s'il n'y avait pas au XXIe siècle des hommes, des femmes et des enfants qui travaillent dans des conditions totalement inhumaines.
I would like to thank with all my heart the mayor of Paris for opening the doors of this place and the doors of his heart, the heart of his colleagues, to this activity. You cannot imagine what it means for me to hear that music. I was present when it was recorded, and to hear Yela, Maria, Johnny, those poor little human beings, their voice in this magnificent institution. Would they have ever dreamt that their music would be heard in the City Council of Paris? This speaks to me magnificently of the mayor and the team that assist him. You have made a dream come true.
Je voudrais remercier de tout cœur le maire de Paris qui m'a ouvert les portes de la mairie dans cet endroit tout à fait magnifique et qui nous a aussi ouvert son cœur. Et vous ne pouvez pas imaginer ce que ça me fait d'entendre cette musique des que j'étais là, lorsqu'on l'a enregistré, les chants de Yella, Maria, Johnny, etc., d'entendre leur voix ici, à la mairie de Paris, c'est comme un rêve qui est devenu une réalité. Et je dois dire vraiment que le maire de Paris nous a rendu un service tout à fait magnifique.
The last time I visited the Bataille, a woman said to me, when you go to your country, tell everybody that in your country, sugar is white, but that here it is red of our blood. That in your country, sugar is sweet, but that here, sugar is very bitter. Bitter of our sweat and of our tears.
La dernière fois que je suis allée en République dominicaine, une femme m'a dit quand vous rentrez dans votre pays, il faut que vous dites à tout le monde que ici, dans votre pays, le sucre est blanc, alors que chez nous, le sucre est rouge avec le sang des travailleurs. Et il faut aussi dire que le sucre est quelque chose, par définition, sucré, alors que dans notre pays, le sucre est amer avec le sang, la sueur et les larmes des travailleurs.
I have been threatened many times with assassination. I was under police protection for 2 years, 24 hours a day, even when I went to celebrate Mass. Fear has been the glue that has kept this industry on its feet. If you ask me, but Father, how is it possible that all of this would happen in the 21st century? And I will only give you one answer, one word for an answer, and that is fear. So I want to thank all of you, those who have worked so hard, Selina and all the other members of the group, the authorities of the city of Paris, and all of you, the journalists, who become the spokesperson of that voiceless humanity, because each one of you, in your own way, have overcome your own fears.
Pour conclure, je voudrais dire que j'ai moi-même été menacé maintes et maintes fois, menacé de mort. J'ai vécu avec une protection policière 24 heures sur 24, y compris pendant la messe. Et je dois dire très fort que ce qui maintient l'industrie du sucre, le ciment qui maintient cette industrie, c'est la peur. Et vous pouvez peut-être vous demander au XXIe siècle comment est-ce que tout cela peut continuer. Eh bien, moi je répondrai avec un seul mot, c'est la peur. Et c'est pour cela que je voudrais encore une fois remercier tous les gens qui ont organisé cette réunion, Célina et les autres, et aussi les journalistes qui, en venant ici, deviennent les porte-parole des personnes sans voix. Merci encore une fois.
And thank you to the President of the Republic for declaring the year 2007, the year in which we remember the abolition of slavery. I would think it's the best tribute to the President of France to be holding this event in the month of May. Thank you very much.
Je voudrais aussi remercier le président de la République qui a décrété l'an 2007 comme l'année de la commémoration de l'abolition de l'esclavage. Et c'est une très très grande tâche, une très grande chose qu'a fait le président de la République et je le remercie aussi.
Je reprends la parole. Je pensais à un poème de Boris Vian, s'il pleuvait des larmes amères en vous tirez les tours. Je crois qu'on est profondément ému par ce que le père vient de nous dire. Je voudrais laisser la possibilité à la salle de poser des questions et puis je reprendrai simplement donc les différents événements. Je referai le calendrier, remercierai nos partenaires. Donc s'il y a des personnes qui veulent maintenant poser des questions au père, je pense qu'il doit y avoir un micro. Oui, monsieur.
En fait, pour
oui. Est-ce que simplement vous...
Qui est branché là. Donc oui, Thierry Auger, je travaille pour activephoto.com et je voulais demander à Céline en fait comment avait été perçu son travail, comment tu avais été accueilli par les travailleurs dans les plantations.
En fait, comme je vivais avec eux au quotidien, c'était pas un travail en soi, parce que j'ai vécu 6 mois avec eux et je sortais l'appareil de photo de temps en temps. Je pouvais passer des jours ou une semaine sans faire une seule photo. Donc ils ont jamais, je pense qu'ils n'ont jamais eu l'impression d'être photographiés. Ils n'ont jamais eu l'impression de... je pense qu'ils m'ont ouvert leur maison et je faisais partie de leur famille.
With great pleasure. One is the Vicini, V-I-C-I-N-I, Vicini family. The other is the Fanjul, F-A-N-J-U-L family. And since I'm speaking, allow me to just give a couple of more facts. 2 out of every 3 spoonfuls of sugar consumed in the United States are produced by the Fanjul family.
Alors, c'est avec grand plaisir que je vais vous donner ou redonner les noms des familles en question. La première, c'est Vicini, ça s'écrit V-I-C-I-N-I, et la deuxième famille, c'est Fanjul, F-A-N-J-U-L. Alors, puisque j'ai la parole, permettez-moi de vous donner encore un petit fait complémentaire. Sur 3 cuillères de sucre consommées aux États-Unis, il y en a 2 qui sont produites par la famille Fanjul.
And I also like to add that the entire sugar crop of the Dominican Republic is exported to the United States. There is only one buyer of all the Dominican sugar, and that is the US government. And it is a subsidized industry by the American taxpayer. The world price of sugar today, it varies, but approximately is 8 cents of a dollar to a pound. A pound of sugar in the world market today is approximately 8 cents of a dollar. The United States of America pays 24 cents for every pound of sugar purchased in the Dominican Republic. The difference between 7 and 24 is paid by the American taxpayer.
Alors encore un fait, toute la récolte sucrière de la République dominicaine est exportée vers les États-Unis. Il n'y a qu'un seul acheteur de ce sucre, c'est le gouvernement américain. Et ils achètent ça à un prix tout à fait subventionné. Et si c'est subventionné, ça veut dire que maintenant c'est le contribuable américain qui paye. Le prix mondial du sucre oscille à l'heure actuelle entre 7 et 8 cents la livre de sucre. Mais ça c'est le prix mondial. Mais les États-Unis payent 25 cents la livre de sucre. Et ils achètent tout ça à la République dominicaine. Et la différence, c'est-à-dire la différence entre 24 et 7 ou 8 cents, qui est-ce qui paye? Eh bien, c'est le contribuable américain.
Monsieur.
Oui, Christophe Warny, le monde diplomatique. Trois questions. La première, le chiffre de 500 000 immigrés. S'agit-il de 500 000 immigrés haïtiens en Dominicanie, ou bien s'agit-il de 500 000 travailleurs et leurs familles dans les batailles? Je pense qu'il faut effectivement qu'on ait des chiffres précis pour pouvoir en parler. Seconde question, au père Hartley, est-ce que les personnes qui sont en contact direct et qui commandent directement les Haïtiens, est-ce que ce sont les propriétaires ou est-ce que c'est une classe de petits chefs blancs? Quel type de personnage assure ce travail? Enfin, une question qui est aussi une remarque, on n'a pas parlé beaucoup des gouvernements haïtiens qui, chaque fois qu'on a un nouveau président ou premier ministre, s'empresse de rencontrer son homologue dominicain. On a droit à des déclarations, disons, très satisfaisantes, auto-satisfaisantes, qui sont en fait tout à fait lénifiantes. Et on peut constater que depuis 20 ans de transition démocratique en Haïti, jamais il y a eu le moindre progrès de fait, et surtout, jamais, peut-être à une exception près lors de l'arrivée d'Aristide, mais jamais il n'y a eu de campagne menée ou de protestation avérée du gouvernement haïtien, qui apparaît donc très souvent comme une espèce de complice.
Je suppose que la question m'est adressée, puisque c'est moi qui ai donc parlé des 500 000 Haïtiens, personnes d'origine haïtienne. Alors, bien entendu, les 500 000 Haïtiens, c'était en 1985. Je parlais du chiffre de la fin des milieux humains à Isla Comores. Donc, aujourd'hui, bien entendu, compte tenu du temps qui s'est écoulé et compte tenu de la croissance naturelle de ces immigrants haïtiens en République dominicaine, on peut effectivement dire que nous sommes dans une fourchette qui se situerait entre 500 000 et 700 000 Haïtiens et personnes d'origine haïtienne vivant en République dominicaine. Alors, nous sommes obligés ici de rester dans cette continuité dans la mesure où beaucoup de ces migrants n'ont pas de pièces, pas de papier prouvant leur qualité de haïtien, parce que voilà, il y a un défaut d'administration en Haïti. Vous en savez quelque chose, même qui avait parlé donc de Haïti qui n'existe pas, qui n'existe plus. Donc,
les engrais, un homme qui est responsable des états des petits trains et des wagons qui transportent la canne d'un endroit à l'autre. Donc tout ça, c'est la structure supérieure. Et vous m'avez surtout posé la question pour savoir qui était directement responsable des travailleurs sur la plantation. Alors là, il y a ce qu'on appelle le superintendant, le chef du bataille, le chef de la plantation sur place. Alors jusqu'à présent, toutes les personnes que j'ai citées sont de nationalité dominicaine. Et alors, le contremaître en chef, le superintendant du bataille, lui est encore dominicain, mais il a des adjoints. Et ces adjoints, en général, sont haïtiens. Et ces haïtiens-là sont souvent pires encore que les dominicains parce que ce sont ce qu'on appelle des majordomes. Et ceux-là sont souvent les pires de tous parce que tout en étant haïtiens, ils veulent qu'on les prenne pour des dominicains et ils veulent faire plaisir à la hiérarchie, donc ils traitent encore plus mal leurs compatriotes que les dominicains le font.
Voilà. Madame.
Bonjour, Claire Allais, je travaille pour le magazine Alternatives économiques. J'aurais aimé savoir où en est la mobilisation et l'organisation des travailleurs que vous évoquiez tout à l'heure.
In theory, trade unions exist, except they are governed and controlled by the company. They are not independent institutions. Therefore, they defeat the very purpose of the organization, because it is controlled, it is in the hands, it's what they call in Spanish a yellow trade union. I don't know if there is a similar expression in French. So, therefore, for all practical purposes, there isn't an official independent structure that protects the rights of the workers. I began to organize the workers without giving them a structure on which the company could put its hands on, for example, a trade union. So we began to organize the workers in each bate and to train a coordinator in each bate that would gather information, that would be in contact with me and with the lawyers, the team of lawyers that was assisting me, to bring to the attention of the Dominican authorities their needs, the human rights and labor abuses, to work for their pensions, and to try to obtain birth certificates for their children. One of the most striking moments was when we distributed a copy of the Dominican Constitution. It was considered an act of rebellion by the workers to read that document, in which obviously, in that Carta Magna, was contained the basic rights and obligations of everyone residing in the Dominican Republic. It was the greatest eye-opener.
Alors, en théorie, oui, les syndicats sont autorisés et ils existent, mais ces syndicats sont des syndicats maison, donc ils sont entièrement vendus à la compagnie. C'est ce qu'on appelle là-bas comme ici des syndicats jaunes. Donc, ça ne marche pas, ça ne sert à rien et ça donne aucun résultat. Alors moi, quand j'ai essayé de mobiliser les gens, je les ai organisés en dehors d'une structure syndicale. On a essayé de former les gens, on a trouvé des coordinateurs dans les batailles qui étaient chargés de récupérer de l'information, de se mettre en rapport avec moi et avec le groupe d'avocats qui travaillait avec nous pour essayer, par exemple, de monter des cas, de signaler aux autorités dominicaines quels étaient les besoins, quelles étaient les violations des droits humains, quels étaient les abus dont souffraient les travailleurs sur les plantations. Et on a essayé aussi, par exemple, d'obtenir que quelque chose soit fait pour les retraites des travailleurs et aussi pour que les enfants nés sur les plantations aient droit à avoir un certificat de naissance. Alors, un moment qui a été particulièrement prégnant, ça a été le jour où on a distribué aux travailleurs une copie de la Constitution de la République dominicaine, ce qui a été considéré comme un acte de rébellion de notre part. Il s'agissait simplement de lire le texte de la Constitution dans lequel les obligations et les droits de tous les gens qui résident en République dominicaine sont simplement exposés. Et ça a été considéré comme un acte de rébellion. Pour les gens qui ont pour la première fois pu lire le texte de la Constitution, ça leur a beaucoup ouvert les yeux sur leur droit.
Bon, je vais vous demander les dernières questions et aussi que les réponses soient le plus courtes possible parce qu'il faut qu'on abandonne les lieux, ce que je regrette. Vous vouliez parler?
Oui, bonjour, finalement, pour la 23, j'avais deux petites questions pratiques. Vous avez parlé tout à l'heure des 500 pesos que l'inspecteur du gouvernement recevait dans le bus. Je voulais savoir qui payait ces 500 pesos, les travailleurs ou la famille Vicini. Et une autre question concernait, vous avez parlé des saisonniers, vous avez évoqué les saisonniers, donc si vous parlez de saisonniers, est-ce que ça veut dire que certains Haïtiens retournent chaque année en Haïti? Et est-ce que vous connaissez cette proportion d'Haïtiens? Merci.
The 500 pesos are paid by the Vicini family to the inspector. And they also have to pay added expenses to the military in the border? For the first question. The second question, these are considered migrant workers. Although many of them stay also for the off-season when there are other agricultural activities going on, like sowing the sugarcane fields and fertilizing them, and just general maintenance. Before, it was compulsory to go back. Now, in practice, what they do is go to other crops in different parts of the Dominican Republic, such as cacao, coffee, and other kinds of plantations, where similar conditions for these workers exist in the off-season for the sugar industry.
Donc, pour répondre à votre première question, les 500 pesos sont payés par la famille Vicini, payés aux inspecteurs. Il faut aussi que cette famille couvre les dépenses de la police des frontières et d'autres militaires. Concernant la question sur les travailleurs saisonniers, oui, effectivement, d'une certaine façon, ce sont des travailleurs saisonniers, mais il y en a pas mal qui restent après la période du sucre et qui s'occupent d'autres travaux agricoles comme l'ensemencement, les engrais, l'entretien des champs, etc. Dans le passé, il était obligatoire qu'ils rentrent dans leur pays, mais maintenant, en réalité, ils s'occupent d'autres produits comme le cacao et le café. Et sur ces autres plantations, cacao et café et autres, les mêmes conditions règnent que sur les plantations de sucre.
Madame, et puis on arrête.
Oui, bonjour. Je suis Eva Luzon du journal Espace Latino. Je voulais vous poser une question. D'abord, vous féliciter pour cette conférence de presse. Je trouve que vraiment c'est très intéressant. Et j'aurais voulu savoir, évidemment, je suis étonnée qu'il n'y ait pas un Haïtien qui soit là. Alors, est-ce que... Non, pas un Haïtien, pardon, excusez-moi, parce que je pense à autre chose. Un Haïtien qui soit là, donc je suis bien sûr pas les travailleurs, parce que je pense non, mais des gens qui soient touchés, est-ce qu'ils s'organisent, enfin, est-ce qu'il y a des gens qui sont très proches, à part vous, monsieur, qui s'autogèrent un petit peu comme il y a ici des groupes de sans-papiers, de gens qui prennent leur destin en main. Est-ce que c'est possible? Ou alors en Haïti, est-ce qu'il y a des associations ou des gens qui sont des parents ou des gens qui auraient pu parler? Parce que c'est très grave, vraiment.
D'abord, je dirais que je suis moi-même haïtien, donc, pour vous rassurer. Et aussi pour dire qu'il y a un très grand nombre d'associations, d'abord sur le terrain, d'associations haïtiennes, je pense notamment le GAR, qui se partenaire de nos manifestations.
Does, and that's of course never going to be in the media if you celebrate masses or baptize babies or married couples, no? Many times people have the impression that I spend 24 hours a day trying to destroy the sugar industry, and it's not the case. I go about my regular job, my mission, my daily activities. But in what is specifically in reference to the sugar industry, to me, they're not just workers and families of workers, they are my friends, they are my parishioners. If they call me father, I have a special relationship of affection and a special pastoral responsibility toward these people. Because as any father, my heart has to be especially open to the most vulnerable in society, and the weakest in society. In practice, how does this translate to the daily activities is leaving aside, of course, these specific church duties of going to the batailles and celebrating Mass and baptizing the children, which of course takes up most of my time, I spend a great portion of the day in organizing the workers, which means we organize seminars, meetings, encounters. Sometimes we even bring the workers of different batailles, of 5, 10 batailles. We transport them to a general meeting. And then we bring different speakers to them who can address different issues that have to do with labor rights, or human rights, and their basic living conditions. Sometimes we have brought officials from the Labor Department, lawyers, social workers. We have even brought ambassadors of other countries to visit them. For example, on February the 6th, the year 2004, we brought the ambassador of the United States, the Spanish ambassador, and the ambassador of the European Union, who did a combined visit. I actually have photographs here I can show you. And if you want me to give you any photographs, I'm very happy to give you anything that you need. You just give me an email address and I give you so, in other words, these would be people whose very presence and the importance of who they are gives us a tremendous umbrella of protection against the Dominican government and certainly the sugar industry. Because it doesn't become a problem between the sugar industry and Father Christopher. But these are people whose very presence is for us a protection. And it also becomes a way of making them aware and first-hand witnesses of the living and working conditions of the people. So that they're not going to be listening to what I denounce, but they themselves can see and they themselves can listen to the workers in their complaints. We have defended legally. We have won many court cases in the court of law against the Vicini family. We just won in the Dominican Republic. We won a very important court case maybe a month ago in the Supreme Court, in the Dominican Supreme Court, defending the rights of a Haitian tractor driver. And I can give you a copy of the sentence if you're interested. Yeah, sure, I can email it.
And do you win?
And we won the court case. So we won in the ordinary court. We won in the what's called the Court of Appeals. They appealed the sentence, and they appealed the second time, a third time to the Supreme Court. So we won 3 times the same case. And that became jurisprudence.
Was it the first time?
It was the first time we won in the Supreme Court, but we had won other court cases against the Vicini family. And I had the whole trial in digital photographs and in videotape, because I requested permission from the judge to film, to videotape the whole trial. And anything you want, I can give you any material that you are interested in, if it helps to document.
Yeah, of course.
Sure.
But don't you organize a children restaurant?
Well, yes, this would be more the legal work. Okay, we have 4 feeding centers in different parts of the parish. Where we feed approximately 450 children every day. We have a home for the elderly workers of the batailles de l'Église. The elderly workers of the bataille. It's kind of a place where they can spend the last days of their life with dignity and well taken care of.
And how many elderly workers?
We have approximately 20 elderly in the home. and that maybe 10 or 12 have died already. So of course when there is an opening we bring somebody new, etc.
How do you finance?
I have a little foundation, a very small foundation, called Misión de la Misericordia, which has legal status in Spain with the Ministry of Social Services, and through very small donations of friends and families, that's how we finance it. And then there are some food stores in the Dominican Republic that give some donations of food stuff.
You could give me their contact after.
Yes, absolutely. I'll give you.
Okay.
Maybe even what is easier for me is if when you write for me an email, and
with
you
what
give a list of the things that you need,
okay,
so I don't forget anything. Okay.
And how could the feeding center of the home for elderly workers still continue to live without you?
That's a good question. The priests who have replaced me are making every effort to continue this work. So they have found their own financial resources for this operation to continue, these services to continue.
And do you have news, or does it work?
Yes, I think in general it's all, most of them in operation. Maybe two of feeding centers are having difficulties, but I am confident that very soon they will be able to.
And why did you have to leave?
I had to leave because the church could not take anymore the pressure of the Dominican government and the sugar industry. So I am now on a sabbatical year at home, waiting for a new mission.
And how were you treated?
How was I treated? Threatened in several ways. Sometimes verbally. Sometimes I had letters that appeared on the door of my residence. And sometimes the threats were not directed directly to me, but to my workers. One of the common threats came to me several times, saying, "Tell the Reverend that one day someone is going to find him in the sugarcane fields with his mouth full of flies." And sometimes they have come through the telephone, through internet. For example, my telephone was tapped by the intelligence of the Dominican military. I was under 24-hour surveillance. So those who didn't like me protected me, because it could have been very dangerous at the international level if something had happened to me in the Dominican Republic. But especially I was under a very particular protection of the Spanish embassy. The Spanish embassy also had an intelligence service looking out for me. So this became an unbearable situation for the church. Every day it was in the press. Every day just became unbearable. For me, I could have stayed there for the rest of my life, because I said it from the beginning. There is nothing in this world that will make me take a step back. Nothing in this world. The only way I can leave the Dominican Republic is in obedience to the church or in a coffin.
And in the press document, I can read that you use some art that you use some particular or special methods to
some special? A method to
speak about the budget.
I don't understand the question. What is it?
But I'm not sure it was just something that I would mention.
Yeah. Well, what is true, what is a fact, is that the media, in general, what I said before, the media has certainly been my closest allies. If it had not been thanks to the international media, and some very limited Dominican, very courageous journalists, nothing would have changed. In other words, the media became the echo, a very powerful echo of my little voice. In other words, if I had not spoken, the media had nothing to report. But if the media wasn't there to report it, my voice would have been heard by nobody. So the media is what the Dominican government is most frightened of, especially international media, because it damages their international image, and also because it can affect tourism, which today is one of the main sources of revenue for the Dominican Republic.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Could you give me your email?
Yes, we're very happy.
And I will write you to. We have a lot of time. Okay.
It's HARTLEY Christopher@gmail.com. Okay? I promise to answer as soon as I can.
Thank you.
Good. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. And have a nice day. A nice trip in Paris.
Thank you very much. It's very sweet of you. And it's very sweet of you too.
Your email?
Absolutely. We're very happy. I'm sorry, this is disgusting.
Okay.
This is the dust of the French Republic. My Spanish is worse.
My English, well. Yes.
Put under your shirt.
Yep.
Possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have to look.
Oh, thank you very, very much. And we have to see each other again.
Yes.
And if not, May. The month of May is the big day.
Yes. Okay, so see you later.
Thank you. God bless you.
Okay.
You want to open this? Or?
No.
You sure?
I think you are very used to...
A lot of experience.
Yeah. It's okay. You can sit here. Just here. So yes, I think it's just the beginning of a story about the worker in the Green Cabinet. So I need to make an interview in general about what you are doing in the island and how the workers are living and what is the problem. And I think that the production maybe contact you by email to make some bigger footage with you to show how you are living now and what you are doing for keep the python. The python, correct?
Fight.
The fight. Can you say some words for me?
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, okay. What is your life now since you are doing the mission?
Yeah, I arrived in the Dominican Republic in September of 1997, and so I spent approximately 10 years living and working in the eastern part of the island, in the province of San Pedro de Macorís, in the municipality and parish of San José de los Llanos. That parish is comprised approximately of 60 batays. The batay is like a small hamlet, a little village, dispersed within the sugarcane fields where the Haitian migrant workers and their families reside in the context of the sugar industry.
But just signed for October, I think you quit.
Yes.
So, what is your feeling that you quit how do you feel right now that you quit?
Obviously, my departure was a tremendous moment of pain and deep grief and suffering, a sense of loss, separation from people I loved and who had a tremendous influence, importance, impact in my life. I'm at home at the present time with my parents, and I've been given a kind of a sabbatical year as my father is in very poor health. So it's an opportunity to spend some time with my parents, which I had not done for this length of time in the past 22 years of my life as a missionary.
For you, it's
nevertheless,
very hurt.
It's a tremendous pain, a very deep sense of suffering and of loss. I do have to admit that in my last maybe 5 to 6 months before my unexpected departure, I did have the feeling that, in a sense, my mission was complete. The fact that my mission was complete does not mean that everything that we were striving for had been accomplished. But in a sense, I had the impression that I had initiated something that not necessarily it was for me to see it come in the trench to its completion, that there are now, today, maybe other actors, other institutions, organizations, other people committed as much or more than myself in this cause, who now have the responsibility to see this struggle and the plight of the Haitian migrant workers come to its fulfillment and to its solving the situation. There are other people who remain there and with whom I am in very close contact, telephone, email, and other means of communication, and with whom I continue to work, to advise, and to be in contact with. Furthermore, I think it is providential that I was asked to leave, because if I were still today the parish priest of San Jose de los Llanos, I would not be able to be sitting in front of this camera this morning. And maybe now there is a mission much more at the international scope, through the media, speaking to other institutions, that can pressure the Dominican government and can bring the plight of the migrant workers and their families to the international court, and also to the international court of public opinion, which is many times where these victories are won. Because I am absolutely convinced that it is only through international pressure that the Dominican government in turn will force the sugar industry to improve its human rights and labor rights record.
And why the church asked you to leave the Republic Dominican?
I think in very few words, because the church could not take the pressure from the government and the sugar industry. Constant pressure through the media, threats, etc. I am sure that I will never know all the details, but quite frankly, I'm not even interested. I know that way above whatever the church has decided with my faith, I believe that the finger of God brought me there without knowing on my part what I was getting into, and it was only God who decided that my time was up. I always tell myself that Moses didn't see the people of Israel into the promised land. Moses had his part in accompanying the people through a very painful desert, but then it had to be Joshua who led the people into the promised land. We each have a part to play, and you have to know when it begins and when it ends, or when it should continue, but in a different form.
What was your reaction when they asked you to leave the Republic Dominican?
I had great pain in my heart, but a great spirit of obedience. I packed my bags.
How they told you you have to quit now?
The Bishop of San Pedro de Macorís came to my residence and asked me to leave in 15 days, and I was gone within a week.
And what was your reaction?
Of silence and of obedience. I made a promise of obedience on the day I was ordained a priest, and I have never disobeyed the church. I am at her service, even when I don't understand.
But
it is not for me to judge, and it's not for me to condemn.
And how the worker react about that?
With great sorrow and with great sadness in their hearts. But they are people of faith, and that they know that Father came and was with them for a time of their lives. They know that maybe Father is gone now, but they believe very deep in their hearts that God doesn't abandon the poor, and that God never abandons his little people.
But now who take care of them?
There are a team of lawyers, volunteers, and other men and women very actively committed in bringing about and continuing, especially all the legal activity. It's very interesting to realize that I was a little bit of a bridge between a team of lawyers and the workers. But now the work that remains is so technical that it really has to be done by people who are experts in the field, especially in the field of labor rights and basic human rights, which is not the expertise of a priest. I think my mission was to give protection to the lawyers who came to assist the workers and to introduce the lawyers to the workers. But now that connection is made, and given all the publicity, it would be absolutely impossible for anybody to forbid these lawyers from entering. So I think the connection is already made and the work is ongoing. But as I say, now it remains on a very technical field. For example, a work contract. I mean, who decides what clauses should be included in the work contract? It's not a priest, it's a lawyer.
So even without you, the fight it's going, it keeps going.
Absolutely.
And workers are not alone.
Absolutely. And not only that, in a sense, has been a blessing in disguise that I were not there, because it was the only way for us to figure out if, when Father was gone, when I was gone, if everything would go back to its original state. And I am the first one to be very surprised that all our accomplishments, all our achievements are still in place, and that nothing has been reversed just because I was not there. Whilst the industry, in its fury and its anger against me, used to always say, things are the way they are because the priest is there, but just you wait for the priest to go. Well, the priest went, but now the workers would not tolerate the abuse that they experienced in the past. There's a very good American expression that says, you cannot put the paste back in the tube once you squeeze. These changes in the minds of the workers are irreversible, and the industry knows it. With the help of the media, with all the different forms of media which keep up the pressure, it is impossible today for the sugar industry to get away with the abuse with which they treated the workers. What I think is going to happen, though, is because it's so difficult for them to now bring all these 25,000, 30,000 men across the Haitian-Dominican border, I believe that the future of the sugar industry is that mechanization, bringing machines to do the work of people, which is a sign of progress.
So, let's talk about the worker. So, first question, how do they live in the field? Can you explain that?
The workers reside in what we call barracks. They are crammed into very small areas, filthy, dirty, with no ventilation, sleeping on double bunks. The company provides them with a machete and with a gallon of water. That's Those are the instruments at the beginning of the harvest season which are provided to the worker for him to be able to go out every morning into the sugarcane field. Normally, the day begins at around 4 o'clock in the morning. And they walk out when it's still dark, wherever the sugarcane field work is to be initiated in that particular morning. And they begin to harvest the sugarcane non-stop till approximately 6 o'clock in the afternoon.
Like slave?
It's absolutely like slavery. First of all, because they're not paid in money, they're paid in vouchers, which can only be redeemed at the company store. They have no insurance policy, no work contract. There is active child labor, because the children sow the sugarcane fields 25 cents on the dollar per furrow. They can do 3 or 4 furrows a day. They're only paid about €1 per ton of sugarcane harvested. And the maximum that a very good, hard-working patient could make would be up to nearly 2 tons a day, from 1 to 2 tons a day, which is really exploitation of the worker. They have no legal status, no immigration papers. Their children are denied their birthright when the Dominican Constitution says that any child born in the Dominican Republic, Articles 8 and 11 of the Dominican Constitution says that every child born in the Dominican Republic is a Dominican. The Dominican government makes always an exception with children born of Haitian parents.
And how do you explain that some slaves still exist in this country? Why?
Slavery can only perpetuate itself for 2 reasons. First, because ignorance. This was very conveniently hidden from the public eye. I believe when Dominicans say that they had no idea of what was going on in the sugarcane fields, because if you never had to go to a sugarcane field, you would never know of any of this. And it was forbidden for most people to enter the sugarcane fields to begin with. When I arrived in my parish, the first thing I was told that it is forbidden for you to enter the Vicini plantations. So the first thing I did was defy that prohibition, but it took me 3 months to muster the courage to enter those plantations, even at the danger of getting shot, because I was in fact entering private property.
And what have you discovered when you go in the plantation?
Well, I've discovered the living and working, the very horrible living and working conditions of these migrant workers and of their families.
And what was your reaction?
First of all, my reaction was absolutely of horror. I was overwhelmed by the situation. It really took me 3 years to understand the basics of the problem and the root causes and to do something about it.
Why?
But in a sense, I was actually forced into action. I'm not saying against my will, but in a very unexpected fashion. The President of the Republic came to one of my bateys just by sheer coincidence for some political rally in a batey called Batey Gautier on January 28th of the year 2000. And I was invited as one of the little local authorities, as the priest is in many Latin American countries, to give a little blessing and invocation, basically to say that God loves the President and is very happy with what the President is doing. I, of course, took it as a manipulation of the role and the presence of the priest and the church. But I was advised by our lawyer to go and to participate in this activity because, who knows, there could have been the opportunity of saying something to the President and giving voice to those who have no voice. So what was supposed to be a very brief, simple blessing, I typed out into a 5-page speech, which began with this, the opening statement was, Mr. President, whether you realize it or not, you have come to the threshold of hell. Allow me to briefly describe for you what this hell consisted of. The next morning, this was reported on the front page of every Dominican newspaper. Priest to President, you have come to the threshold of help. And there was a paid ad in the press, in the Dominican press, in all the Dominican newspapers, paid by the Vicini family, because I had mentioned, in my own ignorance, because I didn't know that you could not mention in public